Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Sunday night breakdown. Daniel Ratledge and Dave Forrester with you to try and make this week's action look exciting. Not a lot of drama out there this week, Dave.
No.
Let's
I've got nothing to say. That if they're not going to put decent games, I'm just going to mail it in.
Yeah.
No, it's done. That's it. See you later. See you next week, guys.
Before everybody hangs up and skips on or whatever they do, let's clean up on Isle Me from last week, where I attributed Rob Hunt's Dave Thomas's quote to Rob Hunt, and I apologize profusely to Dave. It was Dave's idea to add an extra round to the drinking game, not Rob.
You see, the problem is that both Dave Thomas and Rob Hunt are relatively generic names who could easily have 8 numbers behind their name, and be controlled by some bot factory in Moscow. So and I know you're not, guys. I appreciate you listening.
No bot factory in Moscow supports Bradford City. I refuse to believe that.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's compelling. You persuaded me.
Compelling evidence.
But yeah, indeed.
Right. Thank you for the addition, Dave. But we'll
it's pretty poor, isn't it? I mean, we've only got 3 fans, and you get 2
you get 2 of them mixed up. Yes. Right. Let's move on. Let's start with the European game on Tuesday night. Hamburg Towers 75, London Lions 103. First away win for Lions in Euro Cup. Mia Oni in for debut. Tariq Phillip was listed as active by the Lions. He didn't look like he was going to play, to be fair. He had a shirt on, but I think he had a hoodie on underneath his shirt. And obviously no Ovi Soko still out. Well, this game started a lot like the other games that Lions have played this season in the Euro Cup. You had Phillips and McCullum hitting corner threes on the first 2 plays, and you're thinking, here comes London's struggles against the 3-point line. Towers were out to 10-2, 16-8, and you were thinking, where are London going to spark into life?
I thought it was the first game that they played in Europe whereby their depth was actually overpowering. And that's why they eventually sparked into life. But you're right. I mean, the 3 sets that Hamburg ran the first 3 possessions, boom, boom, boom. It's like, well, okay, these guys are ready to play. They've stuck with Zubcic in the starting lineup, and obviously they put Oni in the starting lineup as well. I think if they did, I think they did. And certainly did on Friday. I'm pretty sure
they did on Friday. I'm not sure they did on Tuesday. I'll have to double check it.
Yeah, I don't think Urban was starting, so I think they might have.
Yeah.
But at any event, there was a little bit uncertain early. But their depth wore the German team down. I wasn't impressed, I'll be blunt, with the German team, but I thought that as the game went on, London put on a clinic. And were really, really impressive in what they did. And that was without actually getting that much from Oni. But, still, Ruban's still my favorite player. I mean, he just does whatever the coach wants and does it with ridiculous efficiency. Having not having Soko, Zubcic is a more efficient scorer than Soko. He's a different type of player, though. He sends a different message, different force of personality, different force of
the different way of playing as well.
Way of playing, yeah,
that's
right. And I think that probably kind of helps them because they've got a pretty European setup. He's desperate not to play Decker at the 4. Decker is obviously going to be a 3 all season. It looks like it's probably written into his contract. But there's just nothing. There's just no set of circumstances which mean that he's not playing at the 3. And I can understand that because he gives him so much, and his level is so much higher. But you'd have to say that watching that game, London had probably 3 or 4 of the best players on the court.
Yeah,
the most talented players on the court as well.
Only did start. I've just double checked it. So they had an 18-2 run to lead.
Me, didn't you?
Yeah, it was one of them where I couldn't remember it. I was calling the game as well, so I ought to have been paying attention. 18-2 run to lead.
Fine job you did.
Thank you very much. To lead 26-18. And then they just ran riot in the second quarter. Decker, Kufos, big slams, Bestam won 3-pointer, 12-0 run, and they're 18 points up and scored 48 points in 17 minutes. And I know watchers of BBL basketball might go, well, 48 is not that many. In Eurocup, you don't see 48 before halftime very often.
Well, there's a number of things, isn't it? They've had time off, and they needed time off because they had like 6 games in 12 days or something. So they had, from my recollection, they had the European week off, the World Cup qualifiers week. Then they had a blank weekend. Basically 2.5 weeks since they played a game. And when you've got as many players as you have and you've got as many moving pieces as you have, that time is gold dust, because it gets players healthy. It gets, the coach can work out what's wanted. They've made a personnel move to release Van Oostrum and sign Omni. And then now they've gone from being kind of deep to scary deep. Because the other thing that made a difference in this game was Soloade played some minutes at the point, and Hamburg clearly hadn't done their scouting report. I'm not impressed with the scouting of the German team, of the other opposition teams in Europe, because there's a time in the third quarter they're doubling the ball out of Soloade's hands and leaving kind of Herban and Zubcic 2-on-1 on the wing to decide who's going to make the open three. And it's just like, what are you doing? But Soloade played a few minutes. Quealy basically didn't play, and he's had some difficulties offensively. Obviously Van Oostrom's not there anymore, so he didn't play. So you've gone a long way in 3 or 4 weeks from the lineup, which absolutely tanked the game at Gran Canaria.
Yeah,
and they had Soloade, Quealy, Ward Hibbert, Van Oostrom, and Sharma playing in the first quarter. And I think coach clearly figured out that if we're serious about this, and the GM figured out, we've got to upgrade even some more, and that pushes everybody else kind of down the line, down the steps. And I mean, Decker is just good though. Decker, maybe I don't know. You tell me. I mean, you tell me. Are there that many better players than Decker in the Eurocup? I'm not sure.
Yeah. I've not done as much of the other group, which I would say has more of the better teams to say. But he certainly in this group, he's
and then then I see you've got the ability to bring kind of Herban in, who's had like 26 points on 3 shots or something. Just a joke. It's just ridiculous. And they just wore them down. And the defense London's defense wasn't great. The German guy made a few shots in the third quarter to kind of keep Meisner, keep them hanging around. But they were ultimately overwhelming in this game, and and that, I say, that's what they do with all that rest. Then it really becomes an issue for everybody else. Now, the answer is, of course, for the BBL to immediately put in another emergency competition in over Christmas, maybe to give them 5 games in 6 days or something.
They have, I think I was looking at it. They have a couple of occasions where they appear to have like a Wednesday, Thursday setup, or a Tuesday, Wednesday setup.
They can't complain. I mean, they can't cry. Lack of resources.
I think in both cases, it's 2 home games that they play. Yeah. They play a European home game and then a BBL home game. So I'm guessing presumably it's venue related as well.
We've been there and we've always been there. What I will say is there's something though. I'm not impressed. Well, it's not a question of being impressed. I mean, the signing of Oni is a great signing for them, right? Yeah. He is an NBA pedigree, G League pedigree. He's a 3-and-D guy. He's going to be defensively special, and he's certainly going to be on the court when games matter, and he's going to increase their ceiling significantly. But this is what our league has a problem in relation to its eligibility at this point, because he's played for Nigeria in the Olympics.
Yeah,
he cannot represent Great Britain. London have just released a guy who's been putting time into playing for Great Britain in the windows in order to accentuate the fact that they can bring him in. And obviously, any GM is going to play by the rules, so I don't criticize the GM. No. I don't necessarily even criticize.
It's a rule issue, isn't it? Because the issue is that Oni is playing as a British player in the BBL under BBL rules, but obviously can't play for Britain. And so the question is that rule written purely on what passport do you hold and eligibility to work, in essence, which I think it is, versus the benefit of the British game, i.e. having somebody in a British slot who could play for Great Britain.
Absolutely, and that's the synergy that we need to get. And it's not even, to be honest, whilst the BBL is kind of complicit a little bit in this, because it's not their area either. They're interested in promoting their clubs and their clubs playing games, etc. This is where the BBF comes in again, the British Basketball Federation. Everybody knows my favorite organization. They have the licensing. They are licensed to BBL, so they can actually step in, and not now, but in due course. If anybody within that organization has any form of kind of overarching view of the future, and just say, well, look, we need to be a little bit more distinct in relation to the categories of players that you're having, because having British,
I suppose the question would be, as a man of the law, where are the legalities around saying, well, you might be British by the view of the government, but you're not British by view of us. I don't know how that's.
Well, I don't see this. I mean, the league can get its legal advice if it wants in relation to it, but no one's. BBF can get legal advice in relation to it, but no one's ever tried. There's all sorts of. Now we're not in Europe anymore, so we're not bound by European legislation.
To be fair, for about 25 years, the rules were illegal, weren't they?
Well, they were unlawful.
They were unlawful, but nobody had ever taken it to court to prove it.
Illegal, you get arrested. Unlawful, you just get told you can't do it. So it's given some of the BBL players, could be both. But we had previously a situation where we have three work permit players, two non-permit players who are basically allowed to live here and work here but aren't British. And one naturalized player.
But under the European laws, you couldn't discriminate against a European like that.
A naturalized player was difficult. The naturalized player thing was difficult. The non-permit thing, well, that's fine. You can do what you want.
But the British bit, you couldn't legally. That wouldn't have stood up in European court if anybody had bothered to go there.
Absolutely.
The reality is nobody bothered to go there because actually those players weren't coming to this country anyway, so it didn't matter.
That's right. But then you can set a level. You can set a level and say we have one of each, one passport player who's not entitled to play for your country, and no one's ever going to challenge that because there's not enough of them. But anyway, it's kind of by the by a little bit. But it again, it's joined up thinking. That's what we're doing this podcast. With GB, we have BBL, we have talk about the women occasionally. We want to join it all together. We've got the GB backup point guard who's out of a job, and we've got a guy who is undoubtedly going to help London out, who's been brought in.
Ultimately, this isn't London's question. London are doing they're doing, what they need to do to win the games that they're playing. This is a governing body issue.
And then, to be honest, it's a governing body. And if we'd known about Maya only 7 years ago, we could have gotten the GB programs to the Nigeria program. But that's another thing with the BBF. And we've still got a kid playing in Toronto who we've never even managed to get close to having in our program, who every time you see him playing, there's a British flag next to his name. So that's another failure of what's gone on as well.
Let's not get started on Andy Bett's daughter.
No, or Andy Bett's daughter, Lauren, who's 6'7" and got the chance to be great. But it is a bit of a mess at the minute. I mean, you have it's a ridiculous situation. We have in Sheffield have six Americans this year because John Rotino is a settled status player, which basically means because he was settled as a European in the UK before we left the EU, he qualifies to work here, which means he qualifies as an Indigenous player, according to the BBL. We have Dirk Williams, who plays, who's married, who in 2.5 years' time could be qualified to play for the GB, who doesn't qualify as an Indigenous player, even though he has the right to work in this country due to his status. So he's a foreigner, but John Rotino, because he was here before 2020, has settled status, he counts as European.
Because he had a Portuguese passport.
He had a Portuguese passport, So it just needs, the whole thing just needs absolutely sorting out and tidying up. It's full of anomalies at the moment. And I hope in the summer, somebody from the BBF sits down and says, "This is the way that we want it to run." Sends something off to some lawyers who are far more qualified than me in relation to matters of international law to sit down and say, "How can we do it to accentuate the possibility of improving the GB team via the player playing in our league?" You know, that's it. That's it. So that's kind of rant over. But London were great in this game.
They were great. Yeah,
they were great. And really I get 2.5 weeks off. Good job by the coach getting them ready to play. Good job by the players buying in. And the decade dunk from the wing got me up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was the same in the little booth. Right. So Lucas Meisner with 19 points and 5 rebounds. He was 4 of 8 from 3-point range. Childs 9 of 12 shooting for 19 points, 8 rebounds. They had 20 turnovers as a team, Hamburg. Zubcic led the Lions with 22, 8 of 12 shooting. Decker 19 points and 7 rebounds. Kufos 9 for 11 shooting, 18 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and not quite the numbers you gave, Dave. I'm with 16 points, 5 of 5 shooting. Only, by the way, on debut had 5 points, 6 assists, and 4 steals.
Steals, yeah, he's going to be a menace.
He is, yes. I think we'll come back to that again in a few moments' time, won't we? Let's move to Wednesday night. I would have to say, full disclosure, I was doing another Euro Cup game on Wednesday night. One of the worst things about Sunday Night Breakdown is having to watch a 30-point blowout back on a Saturday morning. When you go, this is just going to be a total blowout, but I've still got to just check in case anything exciting happened in between. And not a lot did, to be fair. So Caledonia Gladiators 92, Leicester Riders 66. A debut for Jordan Burns. Jimenez was starting for the Gladiators. No Adekoya for Leicester. Washington played a couple of minutes but wasn't right at all. 13-2 start by the home team. They're up 20 after 8 minutes. Riders just tossing the ball to Caledonia at every opportunity, and this was pretty easy for Caledonia.
Yeah, I mean the Caledonia starting 5 obliterated the Leicester starting 5 in both halves. I think it was 13-2 and maybe 11-0, something like that. In the first 5 minutes of each half, which is 24-2, which is basically the game. Forrester's rule of injuries, you can always handle one makes you better and 2 makes you worse. Which is Adekoya and Washington, or losses. But Leicester's starting 5 isn't where it should be, isn't where Rob would want it to be at this point. And it's happening a little bit more regularly than he would, I think, like that they're being attacked. I thought the issue primarily was that they were not fixated, but they were certainly working around Nelson Henry as a kind of centrifugal point, and he wasn't finishing early on, and Caledonia were waiting for it. And the disadvantage is if you're playing 4 shooters around Nelson Henry and you give him the ball, if he does finish, it's great because you've got your defense set up and you're back down the court. If he doesn't finish, you're not getting a second shot. And he wasn't finishing. And actually, after this game, I checked his numbers. And his numbers are way down this year. He's like 54% from the field. In the last 2 years, he's been 63% from the field. So that's a substantial gap in maybe the league getting better defensively, maybe not having Gino throwing him the ball. I'm not sure he's in the same shape he was in last year. All those things, you put them all together, then they went through him, and to the point whereby they were almost trying to kind of seem to my eyes not force it in. Look for him at the expense of everything else. And Caledonia just get up and run. And it's interesting because Gareth started. He brought a new guard in, obviously, because Adams went home, and he's decided to bring in a point guard instead of a 2 guard. And Adams is a 2 guard, so it's actually a change. And the reason he's done that is because what we've talked about previously on the show in relation to the push and pull between him and Sloan. And he wants Sloan playing the 2. He wants Sloan off the ball. He wants Sloan being free to attack, but he doesn't want him being the guy responsible for doing everything he wants. So but having brought the new guy in, he still started Jimenez. Jimenez is a rookie BBL player, effectively, and a rookie BBL player playing against a team that could have signed him. I'm guessing. I don't know for sure, but he was at Loughborough for a couple of years. He's been around the program. If they really wanted to sign him, really wanted to make an offer for him, I'm sure they would have. Maybe he just wanted to go home. I don't know, but logically, if Leicester had really settled on him, they could have. And we've talked about him before a little bit. He's kind of a mini Dusha, a young Dusha, insofar as he's a facilitator and not overly athletic and not a tremendous shooter at this point in time. So he's potentially a weak spot, but Gareth trusted him, and they got a great game out of Bailey, and Bailey started off early on attacking and never ever stopped. So it was the game that you need Connor for to rescue you. Leicester have had a few in the past, and you can drink, you guys, on about me. I've had a few in the past as well, where our lineups haven't been right, but I had Flanoy to come in and rescue us, and you just kind of almost rest the game back, and you do it by the mindset of the players coming off, and that's been Connor's role for time immemorial at Leicester, and they didn't have him, and also on top of that, because they're missing two, that then elevates Bowman and Menzies into the kind of rotation a little bit more, because particularly missing Adekoya outside Nelson Henry. It has to be Menzies effectively. Menzies is still getting adjusted to the system. He has a specific skill set which they have to adjust to him as well, which clearly they're not going to do in a week and a half. Bowman is a rookie. He's young. He's athletic. He's talented. He jacked up 3 contested jump shots in the first half, none of which looked close. And they're going to have games like that. That's what they are. Now, in a perfect world, Rob would not necessarily have them playing the minutes that they were playing. Adekoya would be playing those minutes, and Washington would be playing those minutes. But so there's a drop off, and that drop off then prevents Leicester getting any kind of foothold in the game. They came back a little bit, and they made their run on the back of threes from Loving and Wheel and Jackson. And I think they went. Glasgow Caledonia went from 31 points in the first quarter to 12 or 13 in the second quarter.
That was the exception rather than the rule in this game. To be fair,
what happened was the third quarter happened and the starting line got blown out again. And at that point it was done, because when it got up to 20-25, and Bailey, as I say, Bailey was man possessed, 21 shots in this game. Really aggressive, scoring the ball from basically anywhere on the court. And they seem to have a few players who can just be their game. You don't necessarily know which one it's going to be, which one's in that right mindset. And I thought that was really encouraging for them. And the new guy, Burns, stepped in, made some plays, looked like he can score in the league, which is important. Gave him some good minutes too. But very on Leicester. Very, very on Leicester. Threw the ball away time and time again.
At least 5 turnovers in each quarter, Leicester, 25 in total. Caledonia had 20 steals, which I think is one of them where there was a fair number of them where Leicester were throwing them straight to them. There was a lot of bad passes in that. And they had 28 points off turnovers, Gladiators.
Yeah. And I think we're going to find that looking at them tonight. I think there's a proclivity to run from Caledonia. I don't think they're going to be a team who turns the ball over and walks us up the court. And that may be caught enough. But I think it just shows that obviously Leicester have had some issues in Glasgow. It's the third substantial loss in a year for them within there. And Glasgow, the Rocks as well, were the only team to properly beat Leicester last year. And again, that was when Connor wasn't playing. So is that a blip? I mean, for Leicester, is it a blip, or is it? I think it's a kind of evidence that things are going to be hard. And if you haven't got your full group out there playing the way that you want them in this league, you are going. And the Rocks or the Gladiators were 3 and 5 at the time of this game. You haven't got your full group out there, and if everybody's not tuned in, and let's be fair, Caledonia have been on the road and they've played first quarters on the road. Like Leicester did.
It's true.
So it's not a specific Leicester thing or a specific Caledonia thing. I would guess that every team in the league this year has or will go on the road and end up just not being there. But I think that it kind of brings Leicester back closer to being every other team in the league than they were last year, when they were considerably further, ahead. And it's an interesting one. I don't think they've got I like what Gareth's done. I think he's big on integrating all his players. He's clearly got them pulled together, and he's made a tough decision in relation to taking the ball out of Sloan's hands, which Sloan appears to have acquiesced to. And coaches have to make tough decisions, down the line. But they're still only 4 and 5, so they still got a way to go to prove that they can do that consistently. Leicester, despite playing like that, they're 7 and 4. So you'd prefer to be Leicester than Caledonia, despite the fact they lost by 25. But Leicester, it's health. They need in order to be the Leicester that we've seen. Then Adekoya and Washington are absolutely crucial players because their starting five is not scaring anybody at the moment. Their bench is the difference. Didn't have it in this game.
So Bailey had 23 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Sloan had 20 points. Those two players took 39 of Caledonia's 74 shots. Tape with 13, 54-34 points in the paint in this one. Loving 15 and 6. Thornton 12, minus 33. And Whelan 11. So
he was in the starting lineup, wasn't he? He didn't play much else. The starting lineup was minus 24 in about 10 minutes. So that doesn't mean that that's all on him. It's just Mo Walker's a dominant player. Yeah, but he was to have Mo Walker coming off the bench. It gives you a massive. The way he's been playing this year in particular, he's an absolute dominant player. You can't just take him out of the bucket of water and expect the bucket of water to fill back up again. There's going to be a drop off, and they're going to have to work their way through that.
So let's move to the cup games over the weekend, starting on Friday night, where London Lions beat Cheshire Phoenix 74-65. No Decker, no Soko. I guess I have to say no Philip now as well. First few minutes of the season for Ulf for Cheshire. Nick scored the first 5 points, but then only Nelson Zubcic, all from behind the arc, and Lions were straight out into a 10-point lead, 19-9.
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed with Cheshire's scouting report. I mean, they let Nelson go left and step back and shoot a step back three going left. And I think it happened 2 or maybe even 3 times. He might have only made the first 2. And Luke Nelson, you cannot give him that comfortable dribble to his left and let him shoot the ball. That's the one thing you have to take. He has the Doncic 3 where he steps back to his left, and he's more comfortable driving to his left as well than he is actually driving to his right. May actually be a slightly better passer to his right, but he's you can't just let him step to his left and shoot those shots. Only throughout the game was impactful. Kufos yet again rather struggled more against the BBL teams than he does against the European teams. I don't know if that might be a mental thing or a physical thing. It could be both. And Cheshire need their bigs to score a little bit because Evans and Austin can score, but they can't carry them enough. They need their bigs to be able to get them some points, and that means that they require Neighbour and Teague to make shots if they can. And once it got to 10, London kind of played cat and mouse with them, I thought, a little bit. But Cheshire play hard, so because of that,
they do,
the mouse keeps nipping at the cat's leg. You know what I mean? So it's not like they're just it's not like they're a plaything. The mouse is fighting back a bit as well. 99% of the time, it's the cat that wins. And so I kind of fast forward a bit through the second quarter, because Cheshire made enough shots to kind of stay relevant. I thought there was a very bad. I remember a very bad travel call which Ben Thomas got wound up with when one of his players went up, had the shot blocked. And and I'm like, how? That's not a travel. I mean, the guy's blocked the ball out of his hands. He's pick it up again, because he jumped up to shoot it, and he shot it. Ball was knocked out of his hands and came down. Now, if he jumps up and just comes down, it's a travel. Bounces the ball, but it was actually blocked out of his hand. It's called a travel because it was almost like that doesn't look right, so I'm gonna have to call something. I think Ben might have got a technical at some point as well, but I have to say I can't particularly remember. There was, I think there was another. There might have been a substitution thing in this game as well. With Ed, I can't remember. I'll leave that behind. I have to go back to it.
So end of the third quarter, end of the second quarter, start of the third quarter, Knicks had an 11-1 run to cut it to 2 points at 42-40 with 1:30 gone in the second half. But then London scored 21 of the next 23. That's the cat taking over the mouse there, isn't it? To 63-42.
Well, it's like it's all lineup dependent as well, because Jonathan Comagum is played at Sacramento State. He averaged 5 points a game. He's tall, British qualified kid. No doubt practicing hard with them, has a chance to be good. He's probably number 15 on the depth chart, realistically. And he's in the game in the first quarter. Okay. Now, Ryan Schmidt does not have to play, no matter how much people want to say he's managing his minutes, he's giving these guys rest. He doesn't have to play Jonathan Kamagum if he doesn't want to. There's plenty of other guys he could play, and he's put him in the game, which is fine. But that's kind of indicative of the way that he I thought, managed the game. It was like, when we're up, I'm going to put on some guys who aren't playing many minutes. And that is the cat and the mouse thing. And there is always a chance that at the last minute the mouse runs away.
Yeah. There was elements of that in the Caledonia game earlier this season.
Yeah, that's right. And you kind of balancing that. And I thought, to be honest, I kind of understood it a little bit more on the cat. I was a little bit less supportive of the strategy in a cup game. A cup game's a one-off. So you can't get that back. And I mean, that depends on what value they've placed in winning the cup. What value they place in trying to win all four. I don't know. They've got bigger fish. The fish are over in Hamburg and Paris, etc. So they might not be there. So that and again, that's their prerogative. But that then we get, as the game goes on. You're right. They make the big run with primarily their starters in. Ruban again, making some plays in that run. They get up 20, and then Cheshire again, doggedly stick at it. And you've got Dari Austin doesn't quit. Marcus Evans is also someone who has a penchant for not backing down from people. As I'd probably say. Jamel Anderson is never gonna take a playoff. Okay. So those guys aren't going to go away. They're going to continue to play hard. And when they added in some shots from Neighbour and some shots from Teague, which makes a difference, then suddenly they come back. But in that time, London are playing with lineups which are not lineups that you'd think they'd ever be playing with in a game that they didn't think they'd already won. And that,
so just
about 4 minutes to go.
Yeah, to pick up on that, Evans, Teague, Neighbour, Anderson all hit threes. It was 71-65 with 2:45 to go in the game. And like you, except I was watching it back, so I knew it wasn't possible. But if I'd been watching it in real time, would have thought, this might be possible. And then only...
didn't they? They had an open shot. They had an open shot, didn't
they? They did. Yeah, they did. And then only hits a three, 2:17 to go. And that was the final score. Neither team scored in the last 2 minutes. It was a bit of a weird ending.
I mean, they kind of had it. They had a shot down 6.
Yeah,
I remember if it was an open 3 or it was a layup that they blew or something. But they had a shot to get it to kind of a 4-point game. And at that point, you're putting. Drink again, guys. We lost it. We lost a 12-point lead in a cup quarter final in 2.5 minutes to Cheshire 5 years ago. Absolutely.
Like the inbound from Fab.
Yeah, that was the inbound. That was the last. That was the last 2 points. But before that, there was the mother of all cataclysmic collapses. Can't. It will remain with me to my dying day. It was play after we watched it back. It was play after play after play after play, and it just absolutely snowballed.
Yeah.
At the end. And watching this game with Cheshire and London, I'm thinking, when's Ruban coming back in? When's Oni coming back in? When's Nelson coming back in? Because if you're going to play you're going to play it with these younger lads. You're going to play with Quealy hasn't made a shot, and he's playing minutes in the fourth quarter. Sharma's in the game or whoever, and I'm thinking, at some point you're going to have to. At some point, the bead of sweat is going to start.
Yeah.
And the test of the coach is, how much are you? How much rope do you give those guys? How
Yeah,
use our previous metaphor that the shower? How hot is the shower?
yeah,
And and they won by 9, so we got it right.
yeah,
So
yeah. He
that's sort of
did.
what.
Yeah,
But I was just as you said, I was just a little bit in a league game. I wouldn't have been in a league
yeah,
game. Ultimately, if that type of thing happens, you can go back to the locker room.
yeah,
You can
yeah,
say
yeah,
to those guys, "Well, that's why you ain't playing."
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, in a cup game, that's
Yeah.
and the way
There,
we've set the big yellow up, it's different.
in truth, watching it back, there was part of me thinking, I'm not going to have to write anything down here, am I? Because I wasn't expecting this. I wasn't expecting it to get back to
Yeah.
5 points. But as I say, neither team managed to score in the last 2 minutes 17, so it didn't matter. Nelson with 12 points, 4 assists, 4 of 5 shooting. Herban with 12 points, Kufos 10 and 6. Only had 8 points, 4 assists, 2 steals, and 5 blocks.
Mhm.
21 turnovers, but only 10 points from those 21 turnovers. Evans led the Cheshire Phoenix with 14 points and 6, although 6 of 20 shooting. Neighbour far more efficient for his 12 and 5. He was 5 of 9 shooting. They were 32% from the floor in
Yeah.
total.
That's a seriously solid defensive unit from London. Because the one thing I will say is that no matter who they put on the floor, when they get down their bench, the defense doesn't change much. Their
No.
offense struggles, but their
Yeah.
defense is still there, and that's why coach is confident enough to run with it because they're still playing hard and they've still got size and they've still got length. I mean, there was also a remarkable Mo Soluade 1-footed 3-point shot.
Yeah, yeah. Where did that come from?
Came from absolutely
Yeah,
nowhere. Nice
yeah,
job,
yeah,
Mo.
yeah.
But when I'm looking at that, I think, oh, they needed that, and it's like, why is London needing a 1-footed Mo Soluade 27-foot 3-point shot
Yeah,
in the last 5 minutes of a game against Cheshire?
yeah,
So yeah, good 3 days for London though, and also obviously they didn't even have to get Decker out because obviously he's got a sniffle or something.
yeah,
Maybe had a nice reservation somewhere on a Friday night.
yeah,
He'd done all his work on Tuesday. Um, it's they're at that point now whereby
yeah,
it's gone from being interesting to kind of okay, right? So you've loaded up on and I'm making this analogy up as I go. You've kind of loaded up on the rifles. You've loaded up on the howitzers. You've got the cruise missiles in, but now you're going to go and get a nuclear reactor as well.
mm, mm,
A nuclear missile as well, and that's only
mm,
the one extra player because they played that game without Soko and without Decker.
mm.
There's a lot of talent,
Yeah,
money, resources wrapped up in those two, and they were able to play cat and mouse without those two guys.
yeah.
So you wonder, I'm counting the depth chart. It's probably up to about 16 now.
And the question still is, if they were comfortable enough to put Philip on the active
Yeah,
list on Tuesday night, that suggests that the idea that he's not going to play all year is
that was
not an
yeah.
accurate one. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure. I expect, yeah, clearly he's on his way.
yeah,
What he can give them, who knows? But he's another serious piece,
mm,
And then you're looking at a rotation. Then you're looking at a 9-man ACB rotation, aren't you?
mm, mm,
Basically, and that is a bit scary. It's one thing I'm 6,
mm,
but when you're adding in Oni, your Brits are Oni, Nelson, Sharma, and Soko,
mm.
and you've got 5 foreigners at that level. So then you've
Yeah,
got those 4 Brits as well, and Philip. Sorry, so that's 10.
mm,
Oni, Nelson, Sharma, Soko, Philip, and your 5 foreigners. That's a
yeah,
10-man in it because we know what the foreigners are like. That's a 10-man ACB rotation.
yeah.
Which should take them, I would hope, to the last 8 of the Euro Cup.
Last 8, interesting. It depends where they finish. It depends where they finish. As I say, the other group is pretty good.
Yeah, yeah.
But they
They're pretty
can.
good.
Yeah, they are pretty
as
good. They are
well.
pretty good, and they've got. I think they win on. They're playing Wrocław on Tuesday or Wednesday. I think they win that game at home, and they've got a bit of momentum behind them.
Well, it's just that on current eligibility rules, I'm not sure how they improve that roster for next year.
Yeah.
In relation to the 5 Brits that I've just named, and obviously other
Yeah.
Brits further down the line as well. I suppose you could say maybe they find 4 more guys who played at the level of Decker, but Kufos, Zubcic, and Hruban haven't been the problem, and Best be
No.
pretty good as well.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where the improvements are.
Mm.
It's tough. So that's why I say last 8.
So let's move to Saturday night, starting at the Wise, where Bristol Flyers beat Manchester Giants 95-76 in the Cup. No William Lee still. I assumed watching the Statcast that Johnson was injured, but actually they just didn't really play him.
It came to 3 minutes to go in the third quarter.
Yeah, yeah.
It was bizarre.
Um,
Given the amount of bodies that they had.
Yeah, given the amount of bodies that they had, and the fact that Flyers are 7-1 at home and Giants are 1-4 away from home, this had home win written all over it, really. And they scored the first 7 points, led by 9, and looked like Bristol do every week.
Yeah, and my thought 4 minutes into the game, and you can tell us if I'm right or wrong about this, was that this was the game which would have the most shots in of any game so far this season. I don't, you can check the numbers afterwards, but I'm guessing that there were more field goal attempts in this game than in any game I've seen, because they were flying back and forward. They were jumping up and down offensive rebounds. They were making shots, and Bristol started off making shots, and Delpesh was the one who was carrying them early. And Bell was back, and King was back to the 3, and Bell's back to the 4, and Bell is such a unique player that he provides a lot of kind of difficulties in matching up. So Vince went with Robertson to start the game. Now he helps them with the body, but unfortunately Delpesh went off. But he slows them down offensively because they're not a team that's built to throw the ball into a big guy.
No.
Then they did a couple of times, and he didn't make a couple of jump hooks, and that kind of slows them down, because they're also not a team that's particularly over enthusiastic about running back and getting in front of somebody. And that meant Bristol were able to run off Manchester's misses. Manchester were also able to run off Bristol's misses, but Bristol were more committed to what they were doing, and Manchester were committed to what they were doing. And it's another game for the 95-point rule.
Yeah.
They missing William Lee is significant, but it's significant primarily because two reasons. One, he blocks shots, which nobody else does on that team. Well, Robertson does, to be fair, but Robertson's undersized, and he thought there is some form of defensive presence with him there. But secondly, if you're going to be a team that gets involved in scoring races, which Manchester clearly are, that's the way they play. Then it becomes in my experience, it's always disproportionate when you lose one of your scorers.
Yeah.
Because you can't turn around and rely on your defense to kind of keep the game.
He averages 20 points a game, and they end up with 76. Instead of 96.
Instead of 96. And who's playing those minutes instead? Well, maybe Robertson's getting more touches. He's not as good a scorer. Robertson's getting those touches. He's not as good a scorer. And so how do you win those games? Well, you win those games by keeping the other team to 80. Then you might get 81. But Manchester have shown no proclivity to do that now. And we've got enough of a sample size, I think, to say that, I haven't checked their numbers, but I don't remember them holding anybody to under about 85 or 90 on the road. Every road game, every Manchester road game appears to be kind of the same. And they're also becoming certainly offensively, they're Fletcher dominant as well in relation to getting shots to other people. He's able to throw the ball to Green just like he used to throw the ball to Foe. He's able to get to the rim. He's able to do what he does and collect his assists and throw the ball to Dirk in the fast break. But it's almost like everybody's got their hands out saying, "Please, Ramon, throw it to me so I can score." And the problem with that is that puts a hell of a burden on him, because they don't really have another facilitator, and just like Newcastle were last year when they didn't have another point guard, another guard who could facilitate. They had a bunch of scorers. So in the short term, it's particularly when you're playing at home and when you run up and down and Dirk's going and Nate Robinson's making plays and Corey Johnson making threes and Taj Green's dunking and everybody, that's great. But it's a long season, and it's a lot to put onto Fletch. And what you tend to find is that's where there are drop-offs with all of them at the defensive end. So that's Manchester, Bristol. This is really, really. It's almost. I'm almost kind of embarrassed to say it. But I still don't know whether they're going to travel well.
No, this is the problem. They play so, and they get a home
they're
game in
top
the
of the
cup, and
league.
yeah, now I'm going to get another home game in the
You get another home
semi-finals as
game
well.
now,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I'm still looking at them. I'm thinking, well, this shouldn't be working as well as it is. And you only judge things on wins and losses. So the fact it's working is great. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I think. But obviously, coaches judge things on wins and losses. What we're trying to do here is trying to figure out what's going to happen, which is what has happened.
Well, they're 8-1 at home, and I think they're 1-2 away.
So it's nine home games, 3 away.
3 away. Yeah.
And yeah, one away game. But what they are doing is, I mean, to be fair, they're playing without Mahan as well.
Yeah.
So they're not at full strength. I think Bell's been injured.
Yeah. I think the interesting thing with them is that unlike like Leicester, say we're just talking about Washington and Adekoya, is Leicester don't really have another Washington and Adekoya, whereas all of their guys seem so similar that if one of them's missing, somebody else can do the exact same thing.
And it's remarkable because when you get into that situation, if you're recruiting a team, you're generally not looking for that because you're worried that guys will rub up against each other the wrong way. And that they're fighting each other for minutes and they're not filling a specific role. But they've all bought into basically what the coach, I think, is telling them is, look, get your foot in the paint and make the right play. So basically, attack, kick, attack it, drive, and either finish, shoot it, or kick it. And then the next guy either shoots it, drives, or kicks it. So it's constant. There is no...
everybody gets a go.
Everyone gets a go. It's very, very NBA centric. Because I watch, I don't watch as much European stuff as you do. You commentate on it. I watch a bit more of the NBA stuff. And again, in the NBA, it's very, very, there's not much extraneous movement of players.
No.
It's basically you give the ball to your guy,
Best
who it is,
go
at him, make a play.
Yeah.
So they give the ball to AJ King or they give the ball to Thomas Bell, and then they'll say, right, go make a play. And that doesn't mean he's got to score to make a play.
Yeah.
He's got to make a play. And he does. And on top of that, they run and they rebound relentlessly.
Yeah.
And they don't appear to have anything in the way of ego. So the coach seems to have a really strong hold over them because there's not one of them that has kind of elevated themselves above the rest, in the way that he's carrying himself. Which means that kind of the focal point is on Andreas, who's moving guys, back and forward and round in circles. So they've done fantastically well. And Bristol v London in the semi-finals is going to be fun because they beat them once. And it's probably the toughest draw London could have had, given the way the season has gone at this point.
So let me just run through this game. Watson go with a couple of threes to put them up 10, then Williams with 6 in a row to cut it back to 27-23. Second quarter, they kind of eased away, a 15-4 run. Giants in a bit of foul trouble. It's 44-29, and then never in single figures after that. And again, it's another one that I'm sat there watching this back going, there's not much jeopardy on this, but was more fun to watch.
Well, Manchester again lost a little bit of discipline. Green got 3 fouls early, so that was a struggle for them. And without Green, they really did struggle because he was kind of the out guy for the scoring with the bigs. We have to look around at this point and say, in relation to Watson Gale, who are the better British point guards out there? Or British, even if he's a point guard, he's certainly a scoring guard. Because I'm looking around and think we've got to be looking at he's got to be looking at GB inclusion relatively soon, because I'm even talking about guys who are playing abroad.
I
mean, the way that he played, and I don't know whether his game will translate to European to international basketball. I don't know, because he's undersized. And on the face of it, those are not players you see often in international basketball.
No.
But at this point in time, he is absolutely, you would have to say, impacting the competition significantly, impacting his team fantastically, and playing without fear is so important. Samuels as well. Samuels gets credit because he's a guy he's a player who is on an upward trajectory, and the fact that he comes in, he's willing to talk to everybody. And so a couple of times he went to Fletcher kind of taught him, kind of went past him and scored a couple of times and gave him something back. But he's in his face, he's talking. He's joined the battle. Vince got a funny tee in this game. If you saw the technical he got, he did a massive clap, sarcastic clap about
I
referees. Yeah,
remember.
yeah. Oh yeah, it wasn't because I think he thought Fletcher was getting fouled. Oh, that was quite entertaining. But apart from that, you're right, not much jeopardy on this game, and it's probably the first game of the season. I think Bristol beat Manchester by a point.
Yeah.
And obviously William Lee wasn't playing this game, which makes it different. But it's a team is getting somewhere when its wins become more routine.
Yeah. And that might be the upside of the sort of front loaded schedule, that they just get rolling, so that because at some point it's going to be, well, Bristol haven't played a home game for 4 weeks now, so that's got to be. I haven't looked at their schedule, but just by natural maths, that's got to be coming at some point.
Yeah,
but they might be already rolling by then.
Absolutely, well, they are already rolling.
Yeah.
Question is whether there's anything outside of Bristol that will throw them off, and and I mean, they're great. They're fun to watch.
They are fun to watch. Yeah. So Watson Gale, 21 points and 5 rebounds off the bench. Delpesh, 8 of 12 shooting, 18 points and 6 rebounds. Kings, 16.7 rebounds, 6 assists. I feel contractually obliged to give Bristol's offensive rebounding numbers. 22, 13 second chance points.
How many shots in total in the game? Have you got that number down?
I haven't got it.
We'll tweet that later for those.
We'll have a look. Green with 19 and 11 rebounds. Williams with 17 and Fletcher with 14. So let's go to the other cup game on Saturday night. Leicester Riders 94, Newcastle Eagles 73. No Washington still, but Adekoya was back. Hamlet has returned from the birth of his child, so he was back for Newcastle, although they brought him off the bench. Decent start for the Eagles, scored the first 8 points, but looking smooth, knocking down some shots, and Leicester 12-10 up after a few minutes.
I thought it was a one-sided, overall dominant first 3 minutes of the game from Newcastle.
156 is the answer to your question.
156 shots.
Yeah.
So dominant, one-sided. Absolutely incredibly good first 3 minutes of the game from Newcastle.
Yeah. Following 37.
Following 37, we'll move on. We'll deal with the first 3 minutes in great depth. Interesting. Yeah, Hamlet came off the bench. Kyle Johnson started. And Darius was back starting as well. Leicester, we've talked about, they've had some issues with the starting lineup, and that, to be frank, that was Newcastle's only chance in this game, was to get out to a fast start in those circumstances. And to be fair, they came out, and I thought they came out aggressive, and they came out together. They looked like they were up for the game, which hasn't been every game this year. They were, Kyle Johnson seems to have a very professional mentality in relation to just coming out and playing and doing what he has to do, doing his job. So I think he's helped. Cohen looked to shoot the ball early, which again was something that we've talked about. And there was a degree of, physicality in relation to the defense. Having Darius there to guard Nelson Henry early again, helped them. So they got, 3 or 4 stops, and I think Kyle Johnson knocked down some foul shots, and David Cohen knocked down a 3, and they're up 8-0, and then they get a chance, and they're in a fast break, and Jamel Kennedy throws a bad pass when he could have shot the ball, which again, something we've talked about previously, tried to thread a needle, and they come down and miss a couple of shots, but they get the hustle, get an offensive rebound, 7-2, 8-2, and then after that, I'm afraid Newcastle's half-court defense just was awful for much of the rest of the first half, but that's too broad, too generic. Mark Loving's not a difficult player to scout. He's not an easy player to stop. He's not a difficult player to scout, because he plays at his own speed. He gets to his own spots, and and he's a remarkably efficient scorer if he gets to those spots. Right, and you have to have an absolute focus on taking him away from those spots. Okay, Newcastle's defense on Mark Loving was execrable. It was horrible.
There was one in the second half.
It won the second half where
he jab stepped And I think it was Johnson went
Yeah,
under a screen for a
yeah,
jab
yeah.
step, and he's
No,
like,
no, it was,
the
yeah.
guy is 4 of 4 from 3-point range. Where are you going?
They run this 4-5 screen for Nelson Henry, sets it for Loving, but the only purpose of that screen is so Loving can kind of sidestep his way to an open 3-point shot. He's not looking to drive past. He doesn't want to make a play off the dribble. Yeah, he's just trying to set his feet. You've seen it run a lot. But there wasn't the only screen they went under.
Yeah, it was.
Johnson got nowhere near Loving in relation to what Loving's skill set is the whole game. He might say, "Well, I've got my hand up, challenge." That's not good enough. You got to get him there. You got to send him left, and these guys, I'm sure they know that. And I thought Loving played again, cat with a mouse. I thought he was contemptuous of the Eagles. I thought he just went wherever he wanted, shot whichever he wanted. It was different level, different class to anybody who had anybody on the Eagles team in relation to an attempt to stop him. And that's not good because, they're not a perfect team, Leicester. We've talked about it. Thornton is struggling to make an outside shot. You pulled the stat up about like 14% or something. Connor's not playing, right? Aaron Menzies just come in, right? So you have a shot at them, but in order to do that, you're going to have to stick defensively to the scouting report on Whelan, Jackson, and Loving. Whelan, Jackson, and Loving. And you're not going to stop them, but you've got to restrict them. And Mark Loving basically came out, peed off after Wednesday night, and played at his speed and destroyed them. And I'm afraid the defensive attention to details, particularly, it was primarily Johnson in relation to getting out to him and doing what he has to do, wasn't there. And that meant that those threes gave Leicester a foothold, and in a scoring race, there was only ever going to be one winner. Now, to be fair, bringing Hamlet off the bench actually helped Newcastle maintain their offense because he was able to score, and Leicester really weren't doing a great job of stopping him. Stopping anybody, really. I think it was 39-37 with about 3 minutes to go.
3 minutes and 45 seconds to go, 39-37. And
I think shortly after this point, Hamlet comes out. And by the time Hamlet comes back in the game, it's 60-37.
So Adekoya and Loving hit threes to end the second quarter. Jackson scored 9 points to start the third quarter. Leicester had scored 19 consecutive points to make it 58-37.
I thought
into the second half.
Yeah, and that was the game. Now, to beat, you don't beat Leicester in the gym very often. Very few teams do. But to do it, you have to be in the game to the end. And every play, you have to scratch and claw, and you have to be there, and you have to try and create a little bit of doubt in there because Leicester's mindset is, it's our gym, we're going to win. Again, drink, guys. I know that mindset. Okay, it's our gym, we're going to win. It's not going to be a problem. And that means in order to kind of sow doubt, you have to be there, you have to be in their face, and you have to be there every single possession. And I'm afraid Newcastle were kind of the Newcastle starting five at the end of the five they had in at the end of the second quarter and the beginning of the third quarter. It was like a slowly deflating balloon. It just deflated to nothing. I didn't think the Eagles bench was great because I thought Leicester's bench was pretty poor in this game without Connor. Menzies wasn't particularly impactful. Bowman wasn't particularly impactful. And I thought that was the time Newcastle actually in the second quarter needed to make some headway, and they didn't, given the amount of depth that they have. But the game turned, and at the beginning of the third quarter, again, as you say, going under screen, it was Zach Jackson this time. It was Johnson not getting out. I think they'd moved Johnson off Loving. He was on Jackson. Didn't get out to Jackson on the swing. Open 3-point shot. Then you had Nelson Henry, and then at that point, I'm afraid the attention to detail defensively, the Newcastle team was unacceptable. I see Hamlet going over a screen on Thornton, Everett stepping up on Thornton, giving Thornton an open layup. I saw Thornton making a quick pass to the wing and just a little UCLA cut to the basket. No help, open layup. Now this is all on the Newcastle bigs.
If you are so minded, if you go and watch the 2-minute gap between the third and the fourth quarter, they ran a highlight package, and I was just watching Rowe's face because he's like, this defense is unbelievable. It's McKenzie layup, it's Thornton layup, the jab step, Loving three. It was just.
And then the reality of this is that I'm afraid Newcastle have three American bigs. They have Everett, they have Johnson, they have Shelton. right? And at this point in time, those guys have not shown that they're the equivalent, the equal of any of the other teams' bigs in the league, and particularly defensively. You know, I think they can all do their bit. Shelton can rebound, Johnson can shoot, Everett can score. No question. They haven't showed much of it. Maybe that's sort of that minute. Offensively isn't the thing. Defensively, they're giving up layups to players. So the only thing on the scouting report is not to give up layups to. You know, they're giving up threes to players, but the only scouting report thing is not to give up threes to. You know, they can't guard anybody, and that's the problem. And that's not to say the perimeter defense is great, because it's not. But you cannot be as ineffective at both ends as with the big guys. Cannot be as ineffective both times in this league, because there are only 10 teams in this league, and the other 9 have players who are playing better than the Newcastle Bigs at the moment. You know, and they're at that point whereby you wonder, you know, it's certainly not worth having, in my view, having 3 of them sharing minutes if none of them are going to perform. You're going to have to pick your horse, run with it. So this is my guy, I'm going, and if the other guys aren't going to play, they're not going to play. So, you know, the old addition by subtraction thing, because they're not, it wasn't good enough. It was a capitulation defensively. And from that, you know, you get people get into individualism offensively, and then the game was done. But I thought Leicester got a more comfortable night than they were entitled to expect. Because basically, as I say, the air fell out of Newcastle after probably a quarter and a half of decent intensity, decent focus, but no defensive attention to detail. And if you don't have attention to detail, good teams will fillet you, and they filleted them. And that was the game. The one positive for Newcastle was Kyle Johnson. Not just that he scored, because anyone scored 25, well, not anyone, but, you know, he scores 25 and a 30-point blow at what's it worth. But I just thought he's just,
there was something about him, wasn't there?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, there's something about, just smacks of a degree of kind of purpose and professionalism, which was,
there was even, you wouldn't have seen it on screen, but obviously we're sat right next to the Newcastle bench. There was even a bit where they were going back out. It was late in the game. Game was beyond them, sort of thing, and he was still doing the G'ing them up and high-fiving and talking to each of the guys as they were walking out.
No, they can all do it. Anybody can. I appreciate that, and that's you know, there's lots of people who
it's not BS. Just you could tell.
And it's also that's a big thing for a guy in his second game. Who played hard until the end and led by example, and unfortunately led by example, he showed a few of the other ones up. Because it's not a question of how long you've been here. It's not a question of you know, coach wants me to do this, coach wants me to do that. It's getting out of your own head, getting out of your feelings, and playing, and doing what you were brought in to do. And you know, at this point in time, they don't have enough who are doing that. So we'll see what happens.
Riders got up 30 before Eagles scored the last 9 points of the game.
If the game had gone on for another 5 minutes, I think Eagles would have won.
Johnson would have had about 50. Loving had 27.7 rebounds, 6 assists, 10 of 12 shooting, 5 of 5 from 3-point range. Thornton 21, Jackson 13. Leicester with 10 of 23 from 3-point range, 8 turnovers after the 25 of Wednesday.
To be fair, I will say something, man. I thought Rowe got. I mean, I don't like saying anything nice about him, but I thought he actually was saying all the things I was kind of thinking. He says it more politely because he doesn't really want to call people out, because he's an ex-player, and you know, there are soft spot for players, and there's certain things. But I know what he means. You know what he means. You don't know what he means. But I thought he absolutely he nailed it in relation to the moments when the Eagles deflated and when it all went wrong, because, as I say, it was a capitulation, and you know, they've got some fans traveling down there. No, not just 1 or 2. You know, there's fans traveling down there. It's a long trip. You're getting back at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I think they're entitled to expect just a little bit more mental effort from some of the players in relation to executing what the coach is asking them to do. Because I know they know what the scouting report was, and I know that some of them, I'm afraid, even on the most basic plays, the most basic stuff, weren't facilitating that. And that's not good enough.
Carl Johnson had 24 points, half of them in the fourth quarter, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, Hamlet 14. The rest of the team, other than those two, were 12 for 40 shooting. There was a moment in the game where I gave out a random stat, I don't know if you heard it, that the opponents of Leicester lead the league in free throw shooting. So teams playing against Leicester.
I did hear it, and I've got
80%. Go on then.
I've forgotten what my theory was.
Oh, you see, we were debating whether it's because they played so many away games, so teams shoot better free throws at home or something.
No, my theory is it's because Leicester don't foul good shooters.
But if they
Leicester do foul good shooters.
Oh, okay.
Leicester don't foul bad shooters.
Yeah. Because
the only guys who get foul shots against Leicester are guys who are scorers.
Yeah,
have to make plays. My fault. So if there's a bad shooter going to the rim or somebody who's not a bona fide scorer, and you foul them, Rob is going to be furious. So they don't do it. The guys that they foul. So you'd have to have a look at who shot all those foul shots.
Yeah.
And then you'd have to get a stat on the percentages of all the guys.
All of those people. Yeah. The other one that BBL Maths threw out to me in the middle of the game, I think it was that 20%. I can't remember if it was 20% of Newcastle shots or 20% of Newcastle's points have come from the free throw line or something like that, which seemed disproportionately high. And I meant to look at it before I came on, and I forgot to look at it.
Yeah, sure it is. I mean, that's just like 12 of 60. So 20%.
It was the top, and obviously he threw out there, so he'd obviously seen it somewhere. I'll have to look back at it. I'm sure he will tweet us out and clarify it for us. And my mate Alex texted me while we're on the subject of random stats. At the minute, I don't know if you've noticed this, but at the minute, Zach Jackson is shooting 56.5% from 3-point range and 50% from the free throw line.
No, that's not unusual. That is not an anomaly, because his foul shooting has been in the kind of the
60s usually.
It's always been the thing whereby his foul shooting he's the one you foul at the end. That was always
the question that Alex asked me was, has anybody ever gone through a season shooting better 3-point shooting than free throw shooting, given a sort of bare minimum something? So I had a look this morning. There is only one player in the history of the BBL in any season who shot at least 20 free throws and at least 20 3-pointers, which Jackson has so far, who shot a better 3-point shooting percentage than a free throw shooting percentage.
Okay, you have to tell me when and who for.
So the clue I will give you, because he only played his BBL career was 6 games. But you will remember his name. Will remember his name. I'm sure of that.
Not Tack Minor?
No, not Tack Minor. No. There was a reason he only played 6 games. And
Carlo DeVoe.
No. Right sort of reason, wrong player.
I know who you mean. Carlo DeVoe, for all you non-Cheshire fans, once picked up a bit of wood at the Cheshire at Ellesmere at the Northgate Arena.
No, it wasn't. It was this other player who picked up the piece.
Oh, right, okay.
So did something different, I'm sure.
Something different. Okay, yeah. Was it Rod Gregoire?
Rod Gregoire. I told you you'd know the name. Yes, he's the only player to have completed it. Well, he didn't complete
this is genuinely we're not setting this up, are we?
No. I knew you'd know the name. I knew you'd know the name, which is why. Yes,
it's Derby Storm.
Derby Storm. Derby Storm.
Never saw him play. Never
I can't remember if I saw him play, because obviously only did 6 games. I think I might have seen one game that he played, but I wasn't 100% sure. Anyway, let's sweep that one back under the carpet where it belongs and move on to.
That's what Rod Gregoire had done with that wooden bit of wood. Yeah,
because they used to have the little advertising boardings were hung on them in the mallways. So today's game: Sheffield Sharks 65, Caledonia Gladiators 77. Kipper Nichols was ill. Saeed Nelson has a calf injury, which I think Tuck said a few weeks, which was suitably vague, wasn't it?
Yeah, calves
and
really bad.
Nate Montgomery was not available through illness as well, so they were super short on the old rotation, Sheffield, and right there and then you're thinking this can only go one way, and a 14-3 run, and it did only go one
Short on the
way.
rotation, but it was kind of the impact of the guys that they lost. You know, if you're going to lose 2 out of your 8, and if Sacco's a 9th, that's basically what they are. Nichols and Nelson. If you're going to lose 2 out of the 8, and you're carrying 3 centres, you'd prefer it was at least one of those centres.
Yeah.
You know, and it wasn't. So that meant that they had Nelson's been their end of shot clock guy all season, and they get to the end of the shot clock quite a lot. You know, so without him was a problem. And Nichols is their kind of escape valve. You know, whereby he can pop out space the court, get them shots in the post again, end of shot clock, go down the post on a smaller guy, score. Sometimes he has it, sometimes he doesn't. So if I was to pick 2 players, if you give me the choice of picking 2 players to take out that Sharks team to go and play against them, be those 2.
Those 2, yeah.
I would say take, you can have any 2 not play, right? It'd be Nelson and Nichols. So that's bad luck, no question. Then they're playing against a team that's flying. That's it's comfortable in itself and comfortable in what it's doing. But they still didn't really show up, and they didn't show up defensively. Sheffield, they weren't as maybe Caledonia just really good offensively. And Caledonia made a lot of shots. You know, they made. Mike Tuck was saying there was 7 of 10 from 3 at one point.
They were, yeah.
So they did make a lot of shots, but they also played the game at their pace because they were to get stops, possibly because Sheffield were unable to get the better looks. Because suddenly, if Banks has to go from being the shot maker on the kickouts, and this is Routinho as well, to being the creative force at the end of the shot clock, that's going to result in turnovers because he hasn't been doing it all season. Everybody doesn't quite know what he's going to do. Those turnovers, talked previously, Caledonia aren't walking around, aren't walking it off turnovers. They're off. They're flying. And they did that, and that's why they put 53 on Sheffield in the first half, because they were able to run and do that. On top of that, Gareth has reached for 3 quarters, he reached almost BBL Nirvana in relation to the manner and the place we've all obviously been. I'm making this crap up, sorry. BBL coaching Nirvana, in that he got a game out of every single player who stepped on the court.
Yeah.
Bundy didn't step on the court. Bailey picked up 2 fouls in about a minute, so he was out. Right? He had you give Fraser the ball, Fraser scores. You give Tappy the ball, Tappy dominates.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Dominates in the post off the offensive rebounds. Burns comes in, bang, bang. First possession, 2 dribbles, foul line jump shot, like shelling peas for those of us who know,
Still
remember
do that sort of thing.
shelling.
Who don't buy them in frozen bags.
Don't buy them in frozen packs, yes. And that's ruled out our entire under 40 demographic, which there were very few anyway.
It's true.
True. Happy birthday, by the way. I daren't ask.
Thank you. Not far behind.
Not far behind, but never catching up, sadly. So Tabe played like that. Onras knocked down a couple of shots, and then a shot on the buzzer at the end of the first half. Oscar Baldwin, give him a shout. Playing, who played at Sheffield last year, really 9th, 10th man, didn't really play many meaningful minutes or impactful minutes. Comes on, drains a jump shot, gets an offensive rebound, which he tips off to David Sloan for a 3 in the corner, drains a 3. Playing against a team he played for last year, didn't play much for last year. Fantastic. There was not one Jimenez setting people up. There was not one player on the court that Glasgow Caledonia couldn't say, for 3 quarters they were absolutely exceptional, and they drained the life out of Sheffield.
Yeah.
The 4th quarter, I think they obviously had an eye on the spread.
I would refute that. I'm sure that didn't happen.
I'm sure it didn't happen as well. I don't know what the spread was. I imagine it was less than 9 anyway, but they did their very best. Yeah. And that's where Gareth will no doubt have something to take back. Yeah. In relation to Atiba, it's tough because, as I say, you lose.
You can't judge them on that.
You lose one player, you can get better. You lose 2 players. you don't. And on top of that, those two players are their most impactful offensive players, and they're an offensively challenged team anyway.
Yeah,
So that they've been winning, scoring 70, and they didn't really look like getting to 70 today. But more importantly, they gave a 53 in the first half because they weren't getting good looks, and Caledonia were being able to run on them. So they've just got to chalk it up to kind of bad luck that had happened on Cup weekend.
Yeah.
Not a good result for Leicester, I would have thought, because Leicester, I'm quite sure, given their records against Caledonia and Sheffield, would have really preferred to be taken on Sheffield, albeit no coach will ever admit that. No coach ever thinks like that.
Although they've not played Caledonia at home, I suppose.
They haven't played Caledonia.
They did beat Sheffield in their own building.
But
they beat them home and away.
I'm talking about going back like
yeah,
last
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
not
True.
just this year. It's there is the Leicester have the wood over Sheffield going back ages. But it kind of makes for a better semi-final because there is that edge as to.
I think in both of them, you've got Caledonia that have beaten Leicester twice already this season, and Bristol who've beaten London.
And given that we're expecting, at some point this year, London and Leicester are going to face off. I'm slightly less certain of that than I was when Walker was playing.
Yeah,
but I still think Leicester will right the ship. Well, the ship will be righted, and I think in the big games, particularly when they're playing them at home, I would be surprised if they lose to anybody with outside of London in like the trophy semi-final, trophy quarter-final, that type of thing, unless they're injured. Because I think the advantage that institutional knowledge gives you is that how important those games are. You know what you're playing for. You're playing for cups. And that is something that the entirety of the Leicester roster understands, and not the entirety of every other roster. But Caledonia, I don't know when the games are going to be. I imagine it's going to be 3 or 4 weeks' time.
I would have thought so. Yeah.
Because we're end of November now, and they normally get them played before Christmas, don't they?
They do. Yeah.
So the way Caledonia are going, if they stay healthy, and if Burns fits himself in,
which he looks like he's got the ability to do that.
Yeah, then they're going to go in there full of confidence. Of course, that's a different thing. Now, beating a team 3 times in a row, when you've come in, you're thinking you're going to beat them, and you walk into an entirely different environment, a different city in a cup semi-final. It's different. It'll be a real test of Caledonia's mentality because, that's a squad that has the capability of winning something the way that they're playing. They're only 4 and 5 in the league, but they have the upside of winning something.
Yeah, we said a similar thing last year, didn't they? When they should have beaten Manchester in the cup semi-final, and they didn't. They
blew it. Yeah. And and like it or lump it. I don't know if we've got any Scottish listeners. I don't know if it counts on the stats, but they ain't won anything for a long, long time.
No, Ted Berry.
So that's 20 years. So there is a little bit of a monkey on the back of the franchise, or the third franchise.
Well, Achara's retired now, so they might start winning now that Achara's out of the way. He had that loser mentality. That's what it was.
So close, didn't he? He just played at the wrong time, I think. To be fair,
to be fair to him, he won some 10-pin bowling thing the other week. He was keen to tell us.
Well, he should do, shouldn't he? Because he's going to have his foot behind the line. He's going to be bowling it from halfway down the alley. He's going to be halfway down the alley before he bowls it. So you're right. But also Gareth. Gareth, probably the most decorated player not to win the most.
He's played more games than anybody who's not won a trophy in the BBL.
It's not been for wanting to try. It's not because he was on bad teams. It's because he was just kind of mailing it in. It's not because of that. It's because ultimately, they put himself in a situation, and what he's doing at the moment with that group, if that can be sustained, they have the highest ceiling of any team that we've seen because of their 2 wins this week. Now, it's all about will they go down to Bristol, will they go to Cheshire, or will they go to Leicester, or will they go to Surrey and lay an egg and just be awful? Or are they past that now? Has he solved that problem? Because if he has, then they're in their own way at the moment. Nobody else is in their way. They're in their own way to being really, really good. Everybody else. So I'm really interested to see. They do have a shot.
So let's just clean up this game because we didn't actually go through any of it. Sheffield trailed 48-77 with 8 minutes to play, and Caledonia didn't score again. Sheffield had the last 17 points of the game, but never had enough time to make it all the way back. Oganyemi 20 and 10, Banks 15, Glasgow 14, Burns 14, Tape 12, 5 guys in double figures. I'm feeling our combined ages brains having just aged a little bit more in the last couple of weeks. I'm starting to think we've now confused 3 different incidents into one through all of that. So I think you're right about the Carlo DeVoe.
Right. Okay.
And the stick, but I think that was at Derby. I think it was Leopards
Derby
at
for
Derby.
Leopard. That's right.
The Cheshire thing was the Yorick and Rico team.
Yes,
that you were saying, and Rod Gregoire, I think, was something external that would require a man of your experience to come and help him out with.
And the Cheshire. Yeah, the Cheshire thing. Well, Yorick was acquitted, wasn't he? So he's found not guilty.
Yes,
nothing
he was.
said about that.
Yeah.
Seriously, nothing to be said about that. He's found not guilty. There's been some. I mean, there's a book to be written, Dan.
There is. I'm not writing it though. No. You're right.
Sorry, talk about it and
yeah. Bearing in mind that we've just combined 3 separate incidents that were several years apart.
I was there. I was.
Although all involving Derby, interestingly enough.
Interestingly, and the fourth one, the streaker. I don't know if you have you ever heard the story about the streaker?
No, I don't think I did.
You have. Well, it was 2000. It would have been Tony G's first year with Newcastle. And Sean Myers was playing. So we're talking about 2002, probably something like that.
Yeah.
2002. So maybe his second year. And they were playing at the skate park.
Okay.
You know, in the Thunderdome in Derby.
The Thunderdome, yeah.
Remember that? Yeah,
it was basically the Thunderdome.
Yeah, it was basically a skate park. A skate park, which was with kind of and almost an ice rink style thing.
I think it was a roller rink. I think didn't they
roller rink and kind of a white tiled floor. Yeah,
it was a grim old place.
And a grim old place, and a roller rink kind of thing whereby people know if you go to an ice skating rink, there's like a barrier around. You kind of goes up around the side, and then you have to come in through the door, right?
Who knew you could go down from them always?
And to be fair, exactly. And to be fair, Derby weren't very good that year. And I think it was a guy called John Spezia was coaching them. And they came up with they had no money, bless them, and they were on the way out, and they had I think 4 young Americans from who were overmatched or whatever. But they ended up playing at the Thunderdome. Well, this was a mecca for bikers and stuff like that. And I was there, sat behind the Eagles bench with Paul Nielsen, a couple of others, and there wasn't that many people in the gym. And halfway through the third quarter, the ball's at one end, and somebody clearly as part of a dare, has taken all his clothes off, right? Runs, leaps over the waist height.
Barrier thing.
There's a little semicircle on the court, and then leaps off before anybody else. Before the rest didn't even stop the game, right? Before anybody else noticed it. And we are looking at each other and what just happened there? It really was. I mean, it was it was the fun days of the BBL. That was, and obviously going around and watching the games. But yeah, that was the Derby streaker. The Derby streaker is ever more etched on my memory.
There we go.
Never found out who he was.
No, and he's probably in his 40s now as well.
He did, and to be honest, it was so quick. I didn't even see whether he had anything worthwhile streaking for.
I don't know how we can top that. I think we may have just peaked.
Can I just ask if anybody is listening to this and was also present?
Please,
please tweet me, please, because I want to know that. I just want to know that. I know my memory's not playing tricks. I know it happened, but just nuts, just absolutely nuts.
So on that incredible bombshell, we will wrap it up for another week. Have a great week, whatever you're doing, and Dave and I will be back next Sunday to do it all over again. But for now, goodbye.